how bad Cats was. We all know. And James Corden was in Cats. So we are kind of getting a taste of both here. Let's do production hell. Tape Spider, he's not British. He's Scottish. You better get it right. Drinker is Scottish, not British. Okay? So let us delve into... Sure, I'll call it that. Let's delve into Butthole the movie, shall we?
Of all the cinematic calamities visited upon the human race in recent years, I don't think any of them can equal the kind of existential cosmic horror to be found in Cats. Even the absolute nightmare fuel of Snow White's dwarves couldn't begin to touch the unholy fusion of reluctant human flesh and badly rendered CGI fur that infests every single facet of this movie. It truly is an assault upon the eyes and ears, an affront to human decency and a blight on the very face of cinema itself. But it wasn't just the visuals that sank this bloated, star-studded disaster. It was an entire cavalcade of horrible writing, electrifyingly terrible performances, cringe-inducing musical numbers, and a complete lack of logic, creativity, and common sense. A film so bad that it killed the career of its director stone dead and put an end to James Corden's days as a major Hollywood actor.
That's just awful! How terrible! Oh no!
There's even a famous anecdote that Andrew Lloyd Webber, the creator of the original Cats musical, was so traumatized by the experience of seeing this movie that he had to buy an emotional support dog to help him cope. Later, when he tried to fly the animal over to the States with him, the airline questioned why he needed it in the first place. His response? Look at what they did to my musical, Cats. His request was...
Is this a bit? Is this a bit by the drinker? Or did he legit need to get a support animal? It's not a bit. He legit was so traumatized. He was legitimately so traumatized by what they did to cats that he had to get an emotional support animal.
Awful! How terrible! Oh no!
So, to my understanding, Cats the movie was completely different from Cats the play?
Yes. Well, I mean, the musical numbers were still the same, although I think they added, I want to say, didn't they add one or two musical numbers into the movie? Yeah, it's like the general from, granted, I never saw it, but my understanding is the general plot, the general plot of the film follows the same as the musical, and then the film like veers off into, oh God help us now, territory. But the overarching plot was still the same, to my understanding.
There's even a famous anecdote that Andrew Lloyd Webber, the creator of the original Cats musical, was so traumatized by the experience of seeing this movie that he had to buy an emotional support dog to help him cope. Later, when he tried to fly the animal over to the States with him, the airline questioned why he needed it in the first place. His response? Look at what they did to my musical, Cats. His request was approved immediately. But the story of how this malformed fetus of a film got forced out into the world somehow manages to be even more hilariously disastrous than the movie itself. So let's see if we can achieve something that director Tom Hooper was never able to do. Derive some kind of entertainment from Cats.
It's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see if it...
Wait. He did get a dog? Rygat, was it for that purpose? Was it like an emotional support dog? Oh my God. Oh my God, it's real. CNN reported that he got a dog because Cats was so bad, and he now has a therapy dog, thanks in part to the trauma of the Cats movie. Right, dear God, that is fantastic. That is fucking fantastic. They ruined it so badly. The guy who wrote Cats had to get a therapy dog because it traumatized him so much. That is goddamn amazing.
Pays off for him.
Our story begins way back in the early 1980s with the debut of Andrew Lloyd Webber's musical in London's West End. The show was a massive hit, and to this day it's somehow earned more than $4 billion worldwide.
It's one of the
Really?
It's one of the most
Pretty soon,
well-known
Hollywood
musicals.
jumped on it and set to work on a big screen adaptation, and leading the charge was none other than Steven Spielberg, who planned to use
Oh,
his new
Steven.
Amblimation production company to make it happen. The problem they faced is that Andrew Lloyd Webber's musicals in general, and Cats in particular, really aren't designed with film in mind. There's almost no
Yeah.
plot to it, and what there is mostly incoherent nonsense, so the project didn't exactly move along at a blinding pace, and as
And we've seen this too with like every musical they've tried to bring to screen, it's failed. We saw it most recently with Cats, but we saw it before with Phantom of the Opera. They've tried to do Phantom of the Opera something like 2 or 3 times in Hollywood. They've tried to port Phantom of the Opera from musical production to film at least 2 or 3 times. And only one of them worked. Well, only one of them I think was kind of entertaining because it was a horror movie. They actually did a Phantom of the Opera horror movie with Robert motherfucking Englund as the Phantom. And it was B-movie schlock, but it was at least entertaining. Then, more recently, they tried to do an actual musical Phantom of the Opera movie with Gerard Butler as the Phantom. Clamps, it's... I've seen clips of it. Gerard Butler can't sing. He is not a singer. Even auto-tuned, I'm sorry, he's not a singer. But it's also like the whole premise behind these with these musicals do not lend themselves to film. Cats, Phantom of the Opera, and there was a third one. I actually, it's just in my head and I lost it. Shit, there was one that was just in my damn head. Yes, Emily Rawson can't. I'm not critiquing Emily Rawson's musical chops. Gerard Butler? No. Well, okay, Joker 2 was a film that they turned into a musical. It's a little bit different from porting it, though. There was yes, West Side Story. West Side Story, Efo, there you go. West Side Story flopped. When they turned West Side, okay, the newest version of West Side Story flopped. The original film adaptation of West Side Story was good. The more recent remake of West Side Story sucked from everything I've heard. And it's what gave us Rachel Zegler. So, they remade West Side Story about, it was just before she came into prominence. It was like, what, like 2019, 2020 or something, is when they remade West Side Story, and I'm pretty sure it was helmed by Spielberg. Either Spielberg or Lucas, I think. I could be wrong about this. I thought it was Spielberg or Lucas that actually helmed the remake of West Side Story. The remake. We had the original one back from like, what, 60s or 70s? And that was great. And then they remade it, and the remake bombed. Absolutely fucking bombed. And so, moral of the story, stop trying to remake musicals in the 2020s. Fucking stop. Just fucking stop. You can't do it. You simply cannot redo, you cannot turn musicals into films in the 2020s anymore. It can't be done. Fucking stop it. That's the lesson that needs to be taken here.
It turned out, time was running out for Amblimation, who never managed to produce a hit movie. By 1995, Spielberg pulled the plug and shut down the company, moving their resources over to DreamWorks instead. Cats, for the time being at least, was dead in the water.
10 years later.
Fast forward about 20 years though, and things were a-changing. Musicals were back in vogue, and Universal Pictures were keen to jump on the bandwagon. In 2016, Andrew Lloyd Webber himself announced that a Cats movie.
Okay, actually, okay. Les Mis is an exception. Les Mis being brought to the screen is an exception to the rule. Because Les Mis, with the exception of Russell Crowe singing, which wasn't, Les Mis was a well-done musical brought to screen. But it is the exception, not the rule.
To jump on the bandwagon. In 2016, Andrew Lloyd Webber himself announced that a Cats movie was officially in development. Yeah, they still had the thorny problem of a film with no real plot, but let's not worry about that too much. On paper at least, Cats seemed to have all the ingredients of a box office hit. Tom Hooper, who directed the excellent King's Speech, was signed on to direct. He'd already done a big budget adaptation of Les Mis.
Heck, I saw you mention Sweeney Todd. Did Sweeney Todd start off as a Broadway-style musical? Or was it a film that was just done in a musical style? I was always under the impression that Sweeney Todd was a film that they did in a musical style. It was? Okay. Okay, so Sweeney Todd did start off as a musical. However, the thing to note, when did Sweeney Todd come out? Keynote of distinction. When did Sweeney Todd release? Wasn't it like mid-2000s or late 2000s? Something like that? So the movie, sorry, I should have specified. The movie, Sweeney Todd the movie, pretty sure that released what? Late 2000s? Okay, movie, yeah, 2007. That sounds about right. It was also, this is back when Hollywood could still make movies. That's the key distinction. It's when Hollywood still could make movies. It's when they still could take a musical and transition it to film and still do it well and do it right. And exactly, Andrea, respect and care about the source. That is why I specified what I said before is it cannot be done in the 2020s. And stop. In the 2020s, Hollywood cannot do justice to a musical brought over onto the screen. In the 2020s, Hollywood cannot do it.
Excellent King's Speech was signed on to direct. He'd already done a big budget adaptation of Les Mis that had cleared up at the box office, so he was a natural choice for the role. Andy Blankenbuehler, the respected veteran of the stage show Hamilton, was brought on to do the choreography, and man, talk about an impressive cast list. Ian McKellen, Judi Dench, Idris Elba, even Taylor Swift were in this fucking thing. Oh yeah, and James Corden was in it too.
Oh man. Oh god.
And this was back when they were sticking James Corden into every fucking musical thing they could think of. Like every musical Hollywood film, the one that sticks out in my head is Into the Woods. They were shoving James Corden into as much as humanly possible. And he may go into this in his Crash and Burn for James Corden. Back during this time period, he was failing as like a late night host, and so they were trying to he was trying to save it. I think he was trying to save his career by trying to catch because I guess he made his bones in like a stage production of theater and was trying to and was maybe like, okay, I'm losing it as a host, so I'm gonna try and get into every musical style Hollywood production I can to try and save my career. And it did work. Nobody liked him.
God, oh man.
It might be hard to believe now, but back in the mid-2010s, Corden was still considered a hot commodity in Hollywood, so getting him on board was seen as a major selling point. The film's casting, though, was the least of their problems. For you see, Hooper was about to make a decision that would live on in Hollywood infamy and ultimately doom the
Here we
entire
go.
production. The big question hanging over this movie was how to actually represent the cats on screen. Should they go for live action with heavy makeup, or just make them entirely animated? The stage show had solved the problem easily enough by just putting human performers in suits and prosthetics, which is fine because it's a stage show and nobody expects visual miracles from a setup like that. But just like
True
the
story.
nonsensical storyline and the hammy musical numbers, what works on stage doesn't always translate into film. After experimenting with various combinations of makeup and full body suits and finding the results pretty disappointing, Hooper took the decision to go with a combination of live action enhanced with CGI instead. The plan was for the actors to
You can't see me do it, but I'm doing air quotes right now. Enhanced with CGI.
wear skin-tight motion capture suits to perform their scenes, and then the VFX department would add in fur and tails and everything else later. Basically taking the idea of "we'll fix it in post" to its logical conclusion. Now, you might be wondering at this point, how exactly do you blend human faces and bodies into cat form and not have it look like pure nightmare fuel? Well, if your name happens to be Tom Hooper, you don't. Right now, he had a movie to shoot, and that meant getting the actors prepped and ready for the most challenging roles of their careers. That's right, he was sending them to cat boot camp. Taylor Swift later said of the whole experience, "We would literally spend hours on end, barefoot and crawling on the floor, just hissing at each other."
Oh my God.
Andrew Lloyd Webber was brought in.
Are you fucking kidding me? They literally sent them to boot camp and told them, okay, for the next 6 hours, you're gonna behave like cats. Oh my fucking... Okay. Chat, I realize I've been remiss. I realize halfway into this, I have been... My apologies. I have been remiss. I have made a grievous error. A grievous error.
I am actually waiting for Hollywood to do Little Shop of Horrors for a third time. That is going to be a disaster.
Yeah. Chat, I've made a horrible mistake. I must apologize, but I will correct it right now. I will correct that error I made right now. I will remain this way for the rest of the react. My apologies. You have my humblest apologies. I will make whatever penance is necessary to make this right. I am so sorry. I'm so sorry.
To write additional songs for the movie, but was largely shut out of the script writing process, which probably explains why he was so horrified by the end product.
Tail stays.
Hooper's insistence on recording the musical numbers live on set instead of dubbing them over later in a recording studio was also causing problems for the actors because they had no backing music to keep time to. It also contributed.
Wait. What? Hold up. And yes, the tail is staying on this one.
Musical numbers live on set instead of dubbing them over later in a recording studio was also causing problems for the actors because they had no backing music to keep time to. It also contributed to the
Hey! Thank the fuck up! Did I hear that correctly? That while they were doing this, they had the actors singing live on set with no background music? Are you fucking kidding? They recorded them live and did not even give them accompanying music to time off of. What the fuck? What kind of ass backwards happy horse shit is that? How the fuck are you expecting these actors doing all of these crazy stunts to be able to also sing with no music to base their timing off of? Holy fuck, this is stupid.
film's, unique sound.
Stopper Jones in white spy.
All the major shooting was wrapped by April 2019, and the footage turned over to the VFX houses to get the film ready for its December release dates. Unfortunately, this is where things really started to go wrong. 8 months is a pretty tight schedule for post-production on any movie, especially one that uses CGI in literally every scene. Mill Film, the VFX house that was contracted in to do most of the work, was soon overwhelmed by the sheer volume of shots that had to be rendered. Unknown to the employees at the time, the senior management had drastically underbid so that they could get the contracts.
Son of a bitch!
They were already working around the clock just to get the first trailer ready for July, and the situation wasn't helped by Hooper himself, who, according to one employee that spoke to the Daily Beast about the experience, couldn't get his head around the difference between unfinished test animations and the final product.
Wait. That allows the directors to evaluate the motion before hours of work are done to flesh out things like color, texture, and lighting.
Get his head around the difference between unfinished test animations and the final product.
Did not seem to
constant
oh my
emails to
god.
animators shitting on their work, and even demanded they watch videos of real cats doing the things they do in the movie for reference. Because, you know, cats are well known for performing song and dance numbers. That same employee described him as disrespectful, demeaning, and condescending. When you go into a conference room, you're not allowed to speak, and he talks to you like you're garbage. The rendering...
That, unfortunately, is becoming a common thing with special effects houses. Now that Hollywood is so grossly dependent on special effects, like, the studios are treating the special effects houses like shit. That's why movies like Black Panther look like the final battle of it looks like shit. That was close. That was very close. But like the Hollywood studios, there are so many special effects houses that have blacklisted major Hollywood studios because these studios have been treating them like shit. The first one, Crimson, Black Panther 1. Like the final fight in Black Panther 1 looked like shit from a special effects standpoint because Marvel rushed the special effects house. The special effects house that worked on it did not have enough time to properly do up the special effects and do all the CGI and do all the rendering for it to make it look good. They had like an incredibly narrow amount of time to do it. And because of that, special effects houses started basically saying, "We're done. We're not working with you anymore." And these SFX companies started blacklisting Hollywood studios from commissioning any work for, because they're like, no, you're working our artists to death for shit pay, and you're crunching us worse than fucking like who was it? You're crunching us worse than BioWare. And so they just said, we're fucking out. We're not going to work for you anymore. And more SFX studios are doing this with Hollywood, where they're like, we will not work with major Hollywood studios because their demands are incredibly high and their time frames are minuscule. And it's working our artists to death, and they can't actually properly do the job, and the pay sucks.
Technology was also causing headaches for the team. Apparently, the way it superimposed fur onto the actors' bodies caused it to fold over around the tail section, and there's no tactful way of putting this. It looked like assholes. How the fuck is this movie real? Which is probably a big selling point for the furry community, but for everyone else, it was practically a lawsuit waiting to happen. So a team was hastily formed to go through the movie frame by frame and digitally remove all of the cat assholes. I mean, just think about that for a second. Imagine joining the film industry thinking you're going to be creating real art, and that's the task that you end up with. It reminds me of that poor guy who had to go through the finale of Alien airbrushing out Sigourney Weaver's pubes. If things were tense already,
That was a thing, chat. Sigourney Weaver did not had like thick pubic hair that would extend she was wearing these very low rise panties and her pubic hair was sticking out of the top of her panties. And an FX artist had to airbrush out her bush. Like, for the movie, for these scenes. They actually had to go in and airbrush that out.
Boobs. If things were tense already, they were about to get a whole lot worse when the first
She
trailer
refused,
dropped
Rabbit.
in
She
July.
wouldn't do it.
I mean, how can I properly convey the reaction
Drinker was
online?
laughing his ass off in this video.
Oh yeah, he was. Oh, 100% he was. Because the whole shitstorm with Cats is just a comedy of errors. From start to finish, it was nothing but a comedy of errors.
Clearly, a major rethink of the film's entire visual design was needed, which would mean delaying the release by at least a year. I mean, they did the same thing with Sonic the Hedgehog after that disastrous early trailer, a decision that absolutely saved the movie. Unfortunately, Universal Studios were unwilling to budge because missing their December release date would mean the movie couldn't be up for Oscar consideration. As if this was ever gonna get a fucking Oscar. So the only option was to forge ahead and just hope for the best. The staff at Mill Film were now putting in 80 or even 90-hour work weeks, but even then it was barely enough to get it ready in time. They were still scrambling to fix dozens of wonky shots literally hours before the premiere, and even that version was still full of errors. Tails?
Yeah, while they were still working on it hours before it was due to release, and they even had to continued to work on it after the release and had to basically funnel a fresh copy of it to all the theaters. The version that was shown in theaters on release day was not the final cut. It wasn't. There was not enough time to finish it. They basically had to do a not complete version. The film itself was complete, but the effects were not complete for release date. And then the FX company had to keep pushing, and I think it was a week later. It might have been a week later. I don't recall exactly. They pushed out a completed version of the FX version. So audiences that saw Cats opening day or opening week saw a different version of the movie than those that saw it, the few that actually did see it, a week later. Yeah, day 1 was the bad version. Day 7, I think, was the not as horrifying version, basically.
Hands and heads became completely detached from bodies, faces weren't properly integrated into the fur layer, shadows vanished or moved of their own accord, characters would float above the ground or try to grab objects that didn't even exist. In fact, there's even a very long Reddit thread purely devoted to the film's endless visual glitches. The world had finally got to see what a Cats movie—
Hey, chat! Okay, I want you to hear this again. I want you to listen to all this again.
Became completely detached from body and was still full of errors. Tails, hands, and heads became completely detached from bodies, faces weren't properly integrated into the fur layer, shadows vanished or moved of their own accord, characters would float above the ground or try to grab objects that didn't even exist. In fact, there's even a very long Reddit thread purely devoted to the film's endless visual glitches. The world had—
Chat, they literally had to do a day 1 patch for Cats the movie. They literally had to do a fucking day 1 patch. Bethesda was bad. Oh my god. And I'm guessing they might not have even been able to get all the bugs, too. I bet there's still bugs and glitches in the final product that they couldn't even get. Yeah, well, yes, Horde, I said earlier the patch came out a week, but it's... You know what I mean. You know what I mean when I said it's a day 1 patch. They literally had to hotfix the fucking movie. This truly was a glorious fucking comedy of errors.
I finally got to see what a Cats movie could be. And well, most of them wished they hadn't. I've never known anything so ghastly, Andrew Lloyd Webber said of the movie. I just thought, oh god, no, it was off the scale wrong. I've never seen him so upset, his wife added. The film would go on to make $75 million globally, nowhere near close to recouping the $100 million budget. Most of the stars would quietly distance themselves from the disaster in the months after its release. James Corden and Rebel Wilson even tried.
No. Black Wolf, if they had modders fix it, it would have actually looked good. They didn't. They had to have their own in-house team do it. So they Bethesda'd it. Basically, as you guys have all been spamming, yes, they fucking Bethesda'd it. The problem is, unlike Bethesda, Cats didn't have the modding community to take care of the problems for them.
Distance themselves from the disaster in the months after its release. James Corden and Rebel Wilson even tried to make light of it at the Oscars the following year by showing up in cat costumes to present the Best VFX awards. Which, to be honest, feels like kind of a dick move to put all the blame on the animators. Yeah, the movie looked like shit, but they were working to impossible deadlines, and at the end of the day, the very concept behind this movie was so awful that even ILM couldn't have made it look good.
And that's another thing that we've been seeing lately. You know, we saw with Cats, you know, the presentation award thing where they were basically making fun of the animation. I told you guys about this. They did this with Thor: Love and Thunder too. That during the promotion of Thor, like, people shit on SFX Studios all the time unjustly. And even, like, the stars and the directors themselves do it, because fucking Taika Waititi and Emma Thompson did that for Thor: Love and Thunder. They did promotions for Love and Thunder, and they were looking at footage from Love and Thunder, their own fucking movie that they directed and starred in, and they were shitting on the special effects for their own fucking movie in a promotional video for the movie. It's way too easy for these fucking Hollywood elitist asshats to just shit all over the SFX artists that work 1,000 times harder than these actors do, and that these directors do. It's way too fucking easy, and the SFX artists do not get enough credit for the hard work that they put into to either make something look great or to at least make it look passable if they are crunched to shit by the studio.
The bigger, more established stars were able to absorb a failure like Cats because they had enough Hollywood capital to move past it, but the movie's failure blew a big old hole in James Corden's already faltering movie career. Combine that with the various other controversies and revelations coming out about him, and it would basically mark the beginning of the end of his time at the top. And what's of Tom Hooper, our not-so-intrepid director? Well, despite his best efforts, most of the blame for this film ultimately fell on him, and he was consigned to director's jail indefinitely. He's released precisely 0 movies since the Cats debacle, and that doesn't seem likely to change anytime soon. This movie really was a disaster of epic proportions, born out of—
Well, there it is, Revan. Who is Tom Hooper? He did good movies in the past, like, you know, Draker referenced The King's Speech, which was, from everything I hear, a phenomenal movie. I've been meaning to see it. But King's Speech was apparently a great movie. But Cats completely sank his career.
To change anytime soon. This movie really was a disaster of epic proportions, born out of a bad idea and allowed to indulge all the worst excesses of modern Hollywoods. Its failure wasn't just a financial embarrassment, it was a creative slap in the face by a disgusted public. And who knows, maybe they could do with a few more before it's all over. Anyway, that's all I've got for today. Go away now.
Yeah. Yeah, the Cats. I'm a little surprised it didn't kill more careers. It was that bad. But holy shit, it was bad.